some common threads in there that of transformation, innovation, and it said that the only constant in the world is change. And yet we know as humans that we can be very resistant to change and changing ourselves, changing our practices. Do you have any recommendations for businesses, and I would say even kind of economies and societies to, while still feeling a little bit uncomfortable with change, take on this transformation and innovative approach?
It's funny because I hear that a lot. It's like, oh, people don't want to change. People get very comfortable in their way of working, in their way of acting, in their way of being, and it actually is true. Like if you look about how the human mind works, just like at a very basic level, is we're designed to be comfortable in comfort. When things are easy, when things go well, when things are positive, we see this as us being in our happy place, in our comfort zone. We don't want to disrupt that. We want to maintain a constant. But the reality is, like, and I think we know this personally in our reality, is that we change every day. Little experiences teach us. If we're out in the world, if we're interacting with people, every little action has an impact on us, and we learn from it. And they're maybe not perceivable changes every day, but we do. And companies and organizations and institutions and startups and all of those other groups, they change as well. They adapt because the world is changing around them. Our needs change, emergencies change. We go from, January 2020 to one of the most highly to economy that was thriving and under every measurable metric, and everything was going amazing, to a period where we completely changed the entire world not in years, in months. That for me was, one of the biggest indicators is that when you look at COVID for real and what happened over the first 3 to 6 months of COVID, we changed like that. When we're motivated to, we change extremely quickly. We don't love being told to change. We don't love when people say you have to change now. We don't really love when it's being imposed on us. And so we see the reaction to when it happens. But it took very little time for most industrialized nations to go decentralized, to go virtual, for everybody to just be at home with a laptop and a smart camera. It wasn't even that expensive anymore. And so we adapt very quickly to things. And so, if you watch any kind of apocalyptic movie, it's funny to see how quickly humans adapt to this new reality. It's like, oh, well, this is the world today. We're there. But change, when you want to change the way you work, when you want to change people need to be involved in the change. When you look at any type of organization that helps people motivate themselves to change habits, to remove addictions, it always has to start with the person accepting it, the person wanting or seeing change. And what we found is the best way to do that is to make change participatory. If people get involved in the change, even if they're not actively involved, just passively, just to be invited to the discussion, to be able to see what's going on. I think the mistake that most organizations make is that you think change should come top down, and you have managers who are addicted to solving problems and saying, this is what I need to do right now to fix what's happening right now. But when you fix a problem too quickly, you don't get the full holistic view of what's going on. And I work on a regular basis, like with the concept of innovation ecosystems, but every organization is an ecosystem unto itself. And when you disrupt any kind of ecosystem, there will be an impact. There will be some kind of action that will take place, whether positive or negative. And the majority of tech transformation projects or any kind of cultural transformation projects that fail is because we go in and we just say, learn to be different. Here is your teacher. In 1 hour a week, they will teach you to be different. And we will bring change to your door. Change is a participatory process. It's an evolutionary process. We have to see it. We have to feel it. We have to sense it. And our minds have to tell us we want to change. And so I think it's not a question that we don't want to change, because we're ready to change on a daily basis if it's to our benefit. We just need to do a better job of explaining people how this is going to be better for them in the long run, and including them in the change that's going to happen, because it will impact them in some way.
Your organization, and I might muddle the words slightly, but the mission is to ensure that you're embedding innovation really into the DNA of each of those individual organizations. Is the way that you do so and approach this concept different depending on the size or the type of organization that you're working with?
When we're talking about embedding these ideas into an organization, we have to understand that they follow the same basic principles. Like the way they're structured may be different, they may use different terms, they may use different language, but at the end of the day, whether you're a government, a business, a nonprofit, or an academic institution, we all start with the same questions every day. We all want to ask, what value am I trying to deliver? Am I delivering a program? Am I delivering a product? Am I delivering a service? Am I inventing something for the betterment of humanity? Like, what is the value I'm trying to deliver? Now, the next question is always, all right, well, this is what I want to do, but ideas are easy. Action is very expensive. What resources do I need to deliver this value? Do I need human resources? Do I need material resources? Is it physically or scientifically possible to do what I want to do? It's easy to say that we should help everyone in the world have access to clean water and clean air. We all want that. It's something that is an ambition, but what does it take to actually deliver that? And you really need to go down to the basis of what it takes to create to bring about this type of thinking and this type of change, because at the end of the day, someone's going to have to pay for it. Just because your intentions are good, just because you're trying to bring a positive impact, and this is, I think, the most common mistake I see among the especially the research community who develop such incredible things, but think that the work is just going to speak for itself and someone's going to see the value and pay for the deployment of it. Changing the world, like it or not, costs a fortune. Changing an organization costs a fortune. And the only thing that really changes based on the size of your organization is how much you need to invest in at the end of the day. But again, it's all a question of scale. If you're a small organizations, it will probably represent the same percentage of investment as a larger organization will invest towards the same type of change. It's just a matter of scale. And now you got to start thinking about budgeting all this, and you got to think about paying for all this and convincing your stakeholders or investors or your banks to lend you the money or give you the money or invest the money. And so you have to always ask the question, well, what is the return on this investment? And more today, what I think is nice is that people answer the question of returns differently. Before, it used to be purely based on financial, but now you see people thinking about impact returns, social returns, environmental returns. These are things that we can measure in terms of societal value and, even future economic value. And so what we have to really think about is the entire gamut of these questions before we really go into integrating this type of approach into the organization. And if you can answer those questions, you can prepare to change. The last part that I should probably mention is you should also think about how much time you're willing to invest in this, because I have never worked on a project that requires a major transformation that has taken less than 2 years. Things take a lot of time. Even decision-making processes take time. And whether you're a private corporation or a public entity, when it comes down to the paying for things, there's a lot of people who have to say yes. And there's a lot of people who have to see that yes will return into benefits for them, whether it be through generating something public for society or generating more returns for a business. And the reality is, if we understand what the motivations of an organization is, if we understand what they're worried about, what they're hoping to achieve, we can help them integrate innovation into their DNA, because innovation is, at the end of the day, is really about making things better, improving your situation, improving the quality of life, thinking about how to do things differently. And we should all be asking this as a very deep question and looking deep into doing some deep introspection to what our businesses are, because before we used to be very focused on, this is our business line item, this is our focus, this is what we do. And that was the core of what was done. Now we're seeing that the same resources can be deployed in a variety of different sectors. And so you can maximize your opportunities by working on the same types of projects, just by changing your perspective and thinking a little bit differently. But we have to think about these things today because the opportunities are before us and they're being structured and organized by some. But the beauty of it is that they're available to everyone. And so we just need to learn to take advantage of it.